Good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Star. How are you guys doing? Um, I have a really cool book. I found this for you guys at our service center. Um, it's I think you guys will like it. So it's an Eric Carle book, and it's called Mr. Seahorse. And you see the seahorse, and you see all the colors. We have some what colors that blue. We have some orange. Good job. There's some green. My favorite color, pink up here. All right. So we're gonna read this, but first, what part of the book is this? Front cover. Good job. So this is the front cover, and this is the back cover. Good job. So front cover, back cover, binding or spine. So this right here keeps all the pages in our book, remember? So we take very good care of that part of the book. This is the binding or the spine, and it has a very important job. So our job is to make sure that it can do its job. So we have to protect our books, take good care of them. So let's see what our book is going to be about. I think it's going to be a really cool book. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently. Let me fix this so you guys can see. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. I wonder why she's wiggling and twisting. It's time for me to lay my eggs, she said. Can I help? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Oh, yes, thank you, said Mrs. Seahorse, and she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. I'll take good care of our eggs, said Mr. Seahorse. I promise. So they're talking. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. Can you find the fish in the patch of reeds? You see those? How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Stickleback? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Delighted, replied Mr. Stickleback. I just built a nest, and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs onto it. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch. Keep up the good work, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam away. So all the mommy fishes are having their babies. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. If you look in there really good, can you see the lionfish? Let's see. There it is. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Tilapia? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of his eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. You must be very happy, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by. Can you see anything? What do you see? Let's see what he passed right by. A pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. So they were hiding. And there's 2 of them. They look the same. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Curtis? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Perfectly fine, replied Mr. Curtis. Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs and I have them stuck on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. So there's his eggs, those pink. You are doing a good job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by. Let's see if you guys can see what's there. Can you see what's in there? A stonefish hidden behind a rock. See, he was hiding behind the rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I'm taking good care of them till they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting." "You are doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. Look at all those kids they have. They have tons of kids, babies. The time had come for the Seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh, no," said Mr. Seahorse. "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." Oh, he had to send his babies out. So that was a cute book about seahorses, and then they have some really cool pages where you can try to find things in them. So this is something you guys can look through. So part of the thing with that book is there were seahorses. So some of it is counting, but there were seahorses in it and different fish in it. So I have an activity, and parents, you can do this with, you can kind of cut out fish. You do have a bunch of activities that you can do with the kids in the packets that came along with the book that I dropped off. So there are just various activities, and don't try to do them all at once. I tried to send a lot so that you can split it up. So this will be our last book before we move over to, we'll set up a visit for July, sometime in July, to do a social distance visit, where I will do an assessment with the kids first, and then we'll do one more story, one more kind of quick lesson, and then your children that are doing the 3-year-old lessons move up to the harder lessons, because they will now be transitioning into pre-kindergartners instead of preschoolers. Yay, you guys did it. You did a great job too this year. So this one is about, so this is something we can do with something as simple as a die. They have these, I got these from the Dollar Tree. So they have these, or you can use like buttons. So maybe if you have old buttons at home, and like I have these, you can put them in, well, let me see if you can see them, like these, and you can put them into like a little pouch or a cup or something. Shake it up, let your child put their hand in and pick out one. This one is, you can say the white one is the number 2, the red is number 1, or you know, however many numbers you want to switch it up, or however many things you have. And then you can give them something to do. They can wiggle like Mr. Seahorse 2 times, or they can jump in place 3 times, and it's the same thing you can do with the die. So this just kind of helps them with counting, becoming aware of their body, using their body to do different things. So if I rolled this die, it landed on the number 3, then I could say jump up and down 3 times, or spin around 3 times like Mr. Seahorse did. Just be creative. You know your children best. You know what they like. You know what they're running around the house doing. You can have them walk up 3 stairs. All these things are going to do nothing but help them with gross motor, fine motor, things like that. So just be as creative. If you need other ideas, you can call me. You guys have my number. So the other thing I have as an activity is this really cool graph. Okay, so I have this really cool graph, and I have some fish. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna count. These are seahorses. Good job. So we're just gonna see how many seahorses we have. So I have 1, 2, 3 seahorses. So I will put them in on my graph, and I'll show you guys the graph after in a minute. And then you guys can graph anything. You don't have to graph seahorses. I just happen to have these, obviously because of the book and some other things that I had to do. So I had them for that purpose only. And then I have these 2, 1, 2, and I will put them in the next spot because those are just like the fish, maybe like the one fish that they had. And then how many, oh, look at this fish. I wonder what kind of babies they had. So where does this one go? We'll put it here. So I'm going to show you guys so you can kind of see the graph. Graphing is important because it helps. It's like a pre-math. So you guys can graph anything. You can graph how many children are in the house. You can talk about how many, because you know which one has more. So boys and girls, if you look at this, the seahorses, and the fish, which line or which row has the most? The seahorses have the most, and which one has the least? The yellow fish. Good job. So parents, that's something basic that you guys can do with them at home. You can graph anything, and you can actually make this sheet of paper and just draw lines, and you can shade it in if you want. You can put X's in those spots. You can graph how many boys in the family, how many girls in the family. You can graph how many, like a comparison, where you're talking about maybe at your house versus at an aunt or uncle's house, who has the most people in the house, and just, you know, graph those things, or at grandma's house, how many kids are there. But just be creative. Make sure that the kids are still writing their names. Make sure that they're at least trying to do those letters. And I am looking forward to our last lesson so I can see your faces, and we will be able to do those lessons hopefully here soon. And then we'll move on to the books that are a little bit harder, and some of the activities are a little bit harder. But you guys have been doing a great job since day one, actually, so I'm not really too concerned. I know you guys will pull it off, but it's very, very exciting, and I am looking forward to seeing you soon. If you have any questions or concerns, please, please, please contact me. You all know my number. You can shoot me a text if you need to, if you have any needs or anything like that. That's what I'm here for. Right now is a hard time for everybody. And so I'm just here as an extra support, not only to get your children prepared for school, but to make sure that you guys have what you need at home right now during this pandemic that we're kind of sort of coming out of right now. So I look forward to hearing from you and seeing your faces soon. Have a great one. Bye-bye.